First, we need to create VLANs. And on the switch, by default, there's only one VLAN. That's the VLAN 1. Okay, VLAN 1. And all other VLANs need to create manually. If you want to create VLAN 10, you can under the system view using the VLAN 10 to create. If you want to create more than one VLANs on one command, then you can use VLAN command and then the range of VLANs. Okay, 2 to 3 or 2 to 10. Okay, then all the VLANs between 2 and 10 will be created. Okay, and after you create a VLAN, you can use a display VLAN to check if the VLAN is created successfully. And okay, by default, there's only one VLAN, and all switch interface belong to VLAN 1. Okay, and then these VLANs must be created manually. Okay, and by default, if the VLAN created, no interface belong to this VLAN. Okay, and then if you want to assign VLAN to the interface, first you need to specify the interface types. Okay, for example, this interface is a trunk, then you can specify port link type trunk, of course, under this interface. Okay, interface sys view. Okay, you use interface, then this interface command to enter the interface sys view, and then using port link type trunk to specify this interface as a trunk port. And if this interface is an access port, then on this interface, this link type is access. Okay, you have specified the interface type, and you have not specified the VLAN. Okay, if you not specify, then this interface by default belongs to VLAN 1. Okay, and this interface by default, no VLANs will allow to pass on this interface. Okay, so on the access interface, okay, if you want to assign VLANs, of course, not equal to 1. If it's VLAN 1, you did not need to configure. Okay, it's a default. Okay, if you want to assign to VLAN 2, you can use this command, port gigabit. Then under VLAN 2, this interface is put into the VLAN 2. Okay, and there's another method. Under this interface, you're using the port default VLAN 3. Then this interface is put into VLAN 3. Okay, and these two methods, this method and this method, the effect is equal. Okay, you can use either one to configure the access port, okay, to belong to certain VLANs. Okay, and after you assign certain VLANs, certain interface to VLANs, and then you can display VLAN to check. And by default, all these interfaces are belong to VLAN 1, but now after your configuration, then 007 belong to VLAN 2 and 005 belong to VLAN 3. Okay, this is the configuration of the access port. And if you want to configure the trunk port, of course we have configured the port 001 as the trunk port. Okay, and then you must configure a VLAN list to make the VLANs to pass on this trunk. Okay, first port trunk allow pass VLAN, then a list. That's the VLAN 2 and the VLAN 3. That means VLAN 2 and the VLAN 3, these two VLAN are allowed to pass. Okay, and you can also configure a PVRD. Okay, PVRD on trunk port. This PVRD is VLAN 10. Okay, this is VLAN 10. But be careful. The PVRD means when sending the frame out, if the frame is belong to VLAN 10, then no tag is added. If receiving frame with VLAN 10, then no tag is added. Okay, okay, and but the VLAN 3 and the VLAN 2, when sending and receiving, we are adding the tag, okay? We are adding the tag. But if the VLAN 10 is not included in the allowed VLAN list, the frame belonging to VLAN 10 cannot sending out this interface, okay? So this cannot be sending out, okay, VLAN 10. Okay, if you want to sending out VLAN 10, you must adding VLAN 10 on this VLAN list, allowed VLAN list, okay? And after you configure the trunk, then you can use the display VLAN to check. Then you can see the VLAN 1 belongs to two VLANs. The VLAN 2 and the VLAN 3 are all included Gigabit Ethernet 001. Okay, and be careful the characters before interface UT and TG. What's the meaning? There are explanations. UT, TG, and this is UT. UT means untagged. TG means tagged. That means when the switch sending out frames on this interface, that's UT, that means untagged. That means this is belong VLAN 2, then this Ethernet frame sending out without the tag. And this is TG, that means when VLAN 2 Ethernet frame sending out this interface will with the tag. Okay, and this UT and TG is the same meaning, okay? Is the same meaning. And this U and this U and this D means up and down. Okay, this is the up and down. Okay, this interface is up and this interface is down. Okay, this is the configuration of the check of the trunk configuration. Okay, and another, the complex hybrid port. As we have discussed, hybrid can emulate the access port and emulate the trunk port. When configure the hybrid port as the access port, then we can see the link type is hybrid. Then the hybrid PVRD VLAN 3. Then hybrid untagged VLAN is 3. We can see the untagged VLAN 3. That means when this interface is sending out frames, of course, sending out with VLAN of belongs to VLAN 3, then is untagged. Okay, and the PVRD means when receiving a frame from this interface that belongs to VLAN 3. Okay, belongs to VLAN 3. Okay, and the 007 is the same configuration. Okay, to emulate the access port. Okay, and then if you want to configure the interface, hybrid port as the trunk port, then this is the configuration. First, port link type hybrid, then port hybrid tagged VLAN 2 and 3. That means on this interface can sending out the frame belong to VLAN 2 and VLAN 3, but when sending out, this frame should be tagged. Okay, of course also can receive. Okay, this is the hybrid interface configuration to emulate the trunk port. Okay, and after configuration we can check. Okay, check the configuration. Display VLAN, we can see the VLAN 2 and the VLAN 3. This interface is the tagged. Okay, and this two interface is the untagged. Okay, this configuration, this result in the previous slide we have already checked, and is the same as the configured interface as access and trunk port. Okay, of course this configuration, this is the result of the configuration of the hybrid port. Okay, and then another exception, that's the configured hybrid. We can also configure a hybrid interface as untagged and then two VLANs. Okay, this is the 004 of switch B. on this interface, then this interface belongs to VLAN 2 and VLAN 3. And when sending out the Ethernet frame belongs to VLAN 2 and VLAN 3, it's untagged without a tag. And receiving the Ether frames on this interface, these frames are belong to VLAN 3, PVRD VLAN 3. Okay, that means the frame will put into VLAN 3. Okay, this is the configuration, spatial configuration, not equal to access port and not equal to trunk port. Okay, this belongs to two VLANs, but with untagged. Untagged, much like the access port, but two VLANs, much like the access port, much like the trunk port. Okay, and after configure this, then under VLAN, we can use display VLAN to check. Then under VLAN 2 and VLAN 3, the gigabit 004 all belong to, okay? And this is untagged. Okay, so this interface can forwarding out the frames belong to VLAN 2 and VLAN 3, both. Okay, and but if receiving the untagged frame, it's belong to native VLAN. It's belong to VLAN 3. Okay. This is the configuration of the hybrid VLAN. And on Huawei's device, there's also another special VLAN type we call voice VLAN. The voice VLAN, just to configure this interface, for example, this one VLAN as a voice VLAN, and all the traffic belong to the voice VLAN, we are forwarding first. That means the frame belong to voice VLAN have a higher priority. Okay, and this usually is using to carry the VoIP traffic. That means this traffic need a higher QoS control. Okay, in the configuration example of the voice VLAN, first we create VLAN 2, and then under interface we configure this VLAN as the voice VLAN. So all the traffic belong to this VLAN will have a higher priority. Okay, this is the mode, voice VLAN, this is auto mode. And then we using the MAC address, the voice VLAN. This is the MAC address and then the mask. That means the first 3 bytes equal to this address. This is a VoIP IP phone. Okay, IP phone. And if the MAC address is this, then if the source MAC with the source MAC of this, then this frame belongs to voice VLAN. Of course, the voice VLAN is a VLAN 2, and then this frame have a higher priority. We are forwarding out first. Okay, this is the voice VLAN configuration. And after configuration, you can check. We can check use this command, and then we can see the voice VLAN is a 2 and then enabled. And this interface is auto mode to put into the voice VLAN. Okay, and then we got 2 questions. If a trunk link has a PVRD is 5 and the command port trunk allow path VLAN is 2 and 3, that means the PVRD VLAN not included in the allowed VLAN list. Okay, so which VLAN traffic will be carried over the trunk? Of course, the VLAN 2 and the VLAN 3 can sending out and can receive. But if the VLAN 5 can sending out or receive? No, okay? No. The traffic belong to VLAN 5 cannot sending out and receive on this interface, on this trunk port, okay? And then, what action we are taking by an access port with the PVRD2 when receiving an untagged frame? As we know, the access port can receiving untagged VLAN, untagged frame, or tagged frame. And the untagged frame, if received, then this frame will be tagged with the PVRD. Okay, That means this frame will belong to VLAN 2 and then forwarding based on the MAC address. Okay, and of course can also receive the tagged frame, but the tag can only equal to 2. Okay, VLAN 2. If equal to VLAN 2, then this tagged frame will received, will accepted. And if not equal to VLAN 2, then this frame will be dropped. Okay, this is the action of the access port when receiving Ether frames. Okay, then we get to the end of this chapter. Thanks for you to join my presentation. Goodbye.